Boom, 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 boom. A side, B side. What side are you on?
Hello and welcome back. I don't know why I said hello like that, but we're going to go with it. So, hello and welcome back to another episode of A Side B Side Podcast. What's going on, Adam?
Hello, Brooke. How are you?
I think we should just do that the whole episode.
Hello.
Hello.
Like very Mrs. Doubtfire.
Yes, Mrs. Doubtfire.
I should
Hello.
put my face in a cake before I say it.
And then you got to burn your boob pads like she did
Yeah.
too.
I mean, it's not Friday, but let's get crazy.
Oh man. All right. So this week, what is okay? First of all, let me tell you the story that I saw earlier today because as soon as I saw where it was, I thought of you and I could not stop laughing.
Okay.
So apparently, this woman in Minnesota, obviously high on whatever, I believe it was meth.
Okay.
Goes to like a car dealer, gets in the back seat of the car and starts having a lot of fun, if you catch my drift.
Okay.
And when police arrive and ask her what she's doing, she said, "Oh, I thought I was in Florida."
Which, I mean...
What? So that would have made it okay?
I almost feel like people would have been like, well, I guess if you thought you were in Florida. Oh, I had not heard this at all, but wow.
I can't imagine the police officer that had to arrive to that. Like, oh, yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
And the story that I'm reading says that not only did she say she was in Florida, but she kept going while being questioned by the police.
She had a job and she was determined to finish said job.
Yeah, and I love how... So this is a report from let's see, James from the Dave and Chuck the Freak Show, weekdays 5:30 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. on WRIF, which I've never heard of before, but clearly is my go-to source for all journalistic information. The responding officer looked inside the truck and saw the woman pleasuring herself digitally, which I think he means using like her digits.
Fingers, yes.
But it does bring up, like, we talk about things being digital now.
Was she using her phone?
I was like, my first blush was like, what? How digitally? How did?
Yeah.
But then digits. Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
But so thank you to our correspondents, Dave and Chuck the Freak. Weekdays 5:30 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. on WRIF, which I don't know where that is.
Oh my goodness. But yeah, I was like, Minnesota and Florida, could you get any further apart unless you were in like Washington? I mean,
yeah, I just love that, like, that's become like people's go-to response. Like, oh, sir, why did you do that? Oh, I thought I was in Florida.
Right.
Oh, well, understandably, because Florida, just weird stuff happens there.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Dave and Chuck the Freak are out of Ferndale, Michigan. So just to further add to the confusion, I go to get my Minnesota information from a morning show in Michigan.
First-hand knowledge right there.
Yeah, that's right. You know, I like to go as far away from the source as possible. Well, there was another story this week that I was going to forward to you for potentially a future B-side. Because there was a cold case here in the Twin Cities involving a husband and wife that for 10 years went without an arrest.
Wow.
And just this week finally had the husband get arrested. So
oh, wow.
I'm going to forward that to you as a potential, because just like listeners, I can send in story ideas too.
Absolutely.
He says hoping. Oh, okay. He says hoping for some verification. But yeah. So I saw that and I thought of you and I was like, wow, it's in Minnesota. There's definitely a connection. So, maybe that will not as fun as the one you found.
No.
Which, yeah. Hey, I mean, I guess, like you said, she had a job to do and certainly was going to get it done before she went to jail.
Yes. She
Wow.
had more
So,
privacy, I guess, in the
yeah,
back of the
I
truck.
did not see that. I mean, in a weird way, it's a very interesting commercial for that truck. So much room for activities.
Yeah, wild times in Minnesota this week.
Yeah, when it rains, we had our first tornado sighting that I noticed of the spring. So everything's getting a little crazy with the weather. So maybe that's sending people off. You know, like the people's knees start to ache, and dogs and cats run around when a storm's coming, and this lady finds a truck.
Oh my gosh. Have you seen anything good this week?
I have. So we were talking about Quibi a couple episodes ago and how
Yes.
it didn't really take off. Well, all of a sudden, I get this email from Roku that on the Roku channel are all of the Quibi shows.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so they're all free to watch now. You don't have to have the Quibi app or any of that. Um, so I got back into finishing Flipped, which is the couple that's trying to become a home renovation like celebrities, and then they get kidnapped by drug dealers because the house they try to flip is a drug house, and it's a very cringe comedy, and that's what like it's funny at times, but it like the cringiness I can only do so much. And
Yeah.
even in 8-minute episodes, it's just I've been stuck on episode like 9, and the drug dealers are played by Andy Garcia and Eva Longoria, sorry. And they do a very good job, but it's just all so cringy and like awkwardness. And it's just like, I have enough of this feeling in life. I don't know that I want to see the entertainment. So I stopped watching that and got into a documentary on that I had seen on QB that is now on Roku called Blackballed. And it deals with all the behind the scenes of the it wasn't really protest, but it was the movement and the story behind Donald Sterling, who was the owner of
Oh, yeah.
the Los Angeles Clippers, and the tape comes out and how the players, were they going to play, the protests, and then how quickly all that happened. And I remember at the time, I mean, this way back in 2014, it happened like within like 2-3 days. The tape coming out and the NBA saying he was going to sell the team. But it really gets into all the detail behind at one point, like the players in the middle of the playoff run weren't going to play. And you've got behind the scenes interviews with everybody from like Adam Silver, the commissioner, to journalists in LA, to the former mayor of LA, Eric Garcetti, and the Clippers head coach, Doc Rivers, and Chris Paul, who has had a renaissance and is now on the Phoenix Suns, and they're like the number 1 or number 2 team in the playoffs this year. But it's DeAndre Jordan, Matt Barnes, like all these players giving you like firsthand accounts of what was going on at the time. And it was something I completely forgot about. You think of the social justice stuff within sports, how it's changed over the last, year or even couple of years, but it's been, happening for a while that players are becoming more and more vocal. And so this was something that I completely forgot about, and just I had never really dove into the comments or listened. I just heard that he said some stuff and listened to him, and it was very eye-opening and very well done documentary. I'm almost through it, but it's another one of those where it's set up in bite-sized pieces. So each episode is like 6 to 9 minutes, 6 to 8 minutes. So highly recommended if you're interested at all. It's worth it, and free now on the Roku channel.
You should check out I was telling you that that show or that movie, The Most Dangerous Game with Liam Hemsworth is on.
Yeah, that's next.
Yeah, it's so good.
I was actually excited because I know we've talked about it. Like there was some stuff on there that I was interested in watching. I just didn't want to pay for it.
Yeah. So I got to check this out because I have a Roku TV.
Oh yeah. So yeah, I've got it. I've got the Roku thingy, and I just go to the channel, and it's right there. They're highlighting it, so it should be pretty easy to find.
Okay. I saw the new Angelina Jolie movie that is on. It came out in theaters and of course on HBO Max because Warner Brothers has that deal. It's called Those Who. Oh come on! Now I just forgot. Those Who Wish Me Dead.
Yeah. So I've seen the previews, and the previews are all like very actiony, but it doesn't give a whole lot of context. Is she protecting someone, or is she on the run, or?
So the title would have you think she's on the run, but she's actually protecting someone.
Okay. Yeah. That was, I mean, not that it's a huge difference, but
yeah,
it's interesting.
It's got very old school, like 80s, 90s, like early 90s kind of actiony vibes.
Yeah. Like it definitely, like it kind of reminded me of like the style of like more like when she was doing like the Laura Croft movies and Wanted, the one where they spin the bullets, and almost like it was like that actiony, but not cartoonish, not like video game, but like trying to be like more realistic action, like hardcore.
Yeah. Someone said it's kind of like Salt 2, and it was like, well, yeah, I could see like if they said this is a Salt, sequel, sure, why not?
Yeah, Assault. That's another one. Yeah, I really enjoyed that one.
I did too. So I think you would enjoy Those Who Wish Me Dead. It does start off a little bit slower, but then once it gets started. And there's a couple of characters in there that I like. I keep forgetting her name, but there's a character in it that, Angie, of course, is the star, but this chick, you're like, wow. Her name is Medina Singhor. And she's really good. So I'm going to look out for her and more stuff.
So she could be that guy from that thing.
She could. Hopefully she will be. Hopefully she won't. No, hopefully she'll move beyond that guy from that thing and become known. But I think she could be that guy from that. Oh, yeah, I remember her from that movie. She was pretty kick butt.
Oh, it's got Nicholas Hoult in it, too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
He's a guy who I always thought was going to become a bigger deal.
I always confuse him and Sam Claflin. I think I've done this on one of our podcasts before, him and Sam Claflin, because they favor, but Sam Claflin is a little, I don't want to say it and be mean, but he's a little more attractive.
Yeah, I can see that.
Jake Weber, another that guy from that thing.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Often plays a dad.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, or an officer. Well, he was on Discovery. Yeah, wasn't he like the dad on 13 Reasons Why?
No.
He was in that though.
Jake Weber?
Yeah. So I'm looking at the thingy.
Huh.
He played Barry Walker, who I thought was the dad.
Hannah Walker's dad. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm thinking you meant the boy on there, but yes, Hannah Walker's dad. Yes.
Ooh, and Littlefinger's in it.
Who?
The guy from Game of Thrones. Littlefinger.
Oh, okay.
Peter Baelish.
You had me there because I've never watched Game of Thrones. John Bernthal, Punisher, is in it.
Wait, is this because I see Tyler Perry's in it. Is this another of the, because Angelina Jolie did The Bone Collector?
Mm-hmm. No, it's not.
Okay, because there was a author that wrote those series that Tyler Perry then started taking over.
Yeah, no, it's not.
Okay, so just
those were like James Patterson books.
Yeah, okay.
But anyway, we've turned this into an Angelina Jolie podcast, so.
I think, if we're honest, wasn't it always really?
Secretly, yes.
Secretly, we just never said anything. If you go back and listen to the other 44 episodes, there's always an Angelina Jolie reference. That may or may not be true. I just need you to go listen to all other 42, 44, because we need the downloads. So please go back.
It's
if you can find a reference.
True. If you can find the reference for Angelina Jolie in every single one of our podcast episodes, we'll give you a t-shirt.
Absolutely. But you gotta record them and verify with a third party. So we're just like the Guinness Book of World Records. You gotta record and verify.
Oh my gosh. Oh man.
We are not focused today.
No. Okay. We gotta get on it. Okay.
I mean, I like it, but
all right. So this is episode 45. That means we are just a little over a month away from having done this for a full year.
Yeah, we've moved into our mid 40s.
Yes.
Big day, big time.
Yes.
Thinking of getting a sports car.
Midlife crisis there.
Yeah.
Mid podcast crisis.
Yeah, my except for my current stage in life, my sports car will be a Matchbox.
All right, so 45. That means I get to start this week.
Excellent.
Okay, so we've talked about this term before, a Bluebeard, Lady Bluebeard, or things like that, and that's usually just a description it's like a disparaging term often used to determine those that kill multiple family members. It's based on a children's fairy tale because we know how wonderfully morbid children's fairy tales are.
Well, they were meant to be like warning stories, like like parables, like don't follow weird little old ladies into the wood. You get baked into a pie. Obviously, life lessons.
Right. So it's based on a fairy tale in which a Bluebeard kills multiple wives and then leaves them to decay in a special room in his house. Not the Christian Grey type of room. This is, you don't want to go into this room at all. It's not the red room.
Yeah, nope. It's the scary murder room. So
this week we're talking about someone who has been dubbed Atlanta's Mrs. Bluebeard. Her name, Roberta Elder. Real quick, another reference to that Bluebeard. According to reporter William Fawkes of the Pittsburgh Courier, she outdid the original namesake. I just want to throw that in there real quick.
She reset the threshold.
So not a whole lot is known about Roberta's early years. I know I said that last week when we talked about Abraham, and then I was word vomiting his entire past, but that's not going to happen this week. But the reason for that is when it comes to mainstream media coverage of Black victims and their perpetrators, it leaves a lot to be desired. It's extremely lacking, especially, in the past. Black or people of color POC victims haven't always been deemed as important or as important as their white counterparts, which by contrast, Blacks and POCs are overly characterized as violent criminals and overly represented in the media. So take that information. So there was always the thought that women couldn't or weren't capable of being serial killers. But we have learned from Marie Besnard, Nannie Doss, several others, that is not, in fact, the case.
I mean, I feels like at least, and I'm bad at numbers and also memory, so take this with a giant bucket of salt. But it feels like at least a third of our stories have involved female killers.
I would say that's probably true.
Yeah. We're just going to go with it because there's no one to fact check it until you listen to all 44 episodes.
So when you take into account the lack of coverage, plus the fact that people thought that women couldn't be serial killers, you hence get a lot of missing information. What we do know about Roberta was that she was born in the early 1900s in Rockinsville, Georgia. But her timeline is extremely vague until about 1938, when her killings are believed to have began.
Started.
There you go. So we've got, we've talked about women, and when they're serial killers, it's very different from men. Men usually are power killers, thrill seekers, things like that. Women are usually doing it for financial gain,
life insurance,
money, right? Yeah.
New husbands.
Yes. So we know that we're going to assume going into the story, her motive, financial gain. And we've also learned with women, what's their weapon of choice?
Poison.
Yes.
That girl used poison. My apologies to Belle Biv DeVoe.
No, they would love that. Mm-hmm. Sure, they would. So her first victim is thought to be her common law husband, John Woodard, who died December of 1938 at the age of just 36 under suspicious circumstances. Shortly after the death of her common law husband of 6 months was the death of her son, James Willie Thurmond, in June of 1939. 12-year-old James was a product of her first marriage. His cause of death was listed as malnutrition and respiratory trouble. Mm-hmm. Over the next 10 years, her victims continued to pile up, including her 2-week-old daughter, Willie Mae Thurmond, her daughter from her first marriage, Lizzie Mae Thurmond. Those Mays are spelled differently. Willie Mae is M-A-E and Lizzie Mae is M-A-Y.
Yeah, you don't want them to get confused.
No. Lizzie Mae was her 1-week-old daughter from her first marriage. Also amongst her victims, her 2-year-old grandson, Jimmy Lee Crane Hunter in 1943, her cousin, Gloria Evans, who died from food poisoning on December 26 of 1944, Mrs. Kelly Brown, who was Roberta's mother, died in 1945. Roberta's husband, this would be husband number 3, I believe, James Garfield Crane, died from poisoning in 1947. Mrs. Willie Mae Alder passed in 1950 from what was believed to be influenza at the time in 1950. She was only 41. Willie Mae was the ex-wife of her first husband, Reverend William M. Elder Sr. We also have amongst the victims 2 of William's daughters, Fannie Mae Elder, who was 15, and Annie Pearl Elder, who was 9, both of whom were listed to have died from influenza in 1951. But Annie Pearl's and Fannie Mae's deaths were later listed as arsenic poison. They were exhumed and their hair was tested.
Oh, wow. I guess that makes sense. Your hair can tell you a lot.
Oh, yeah. They say like things last in your, until it grows out and comes off, they can test your hair and it'll be able to tell you whatever you did. Now, if you're wondering why they were all listed as the victims, it's because arsenic poison can mimic flu-like symptoms and go undetected, especially in a time when testing was not prevalent. Short-term symptoms include vomiting, abdominal pain, and diarrhea. So I said I meant wasn't, why they weren't listed initially.
Yeah.
It wasn't until her final victim, her husband, Reverend William M. Elder Sr., that Roberta finally found herself under suspicion. And all because of bananas and cheese.
Bananas and cheese.
First of all, I wouldn't have been a victim if she was trying to serve me bananas because, ew, I hate them. So I'd have been like, nah, I'm good, thanks. But the cheese might be where she got me.
Yeah. I have been eating a lot of bananas lately because I bought some and they sent a whole bunch and it's only one person. So then I feel like I have to eat them all very quickly because they're going to go bad.
Right.
So I've had bananas for lunch and dinner for 3 straight days.
Ugh.
Not just bananas. That'd be bananas. But yeah. So this is very strange. We talk about bananas. I don't remember the last time I got a banana.
You might want to check it. Now, did you have them with cheese?
I have cheese in most of my meals. So yeah, cheese was definitely in there. This lady could have offed me real quick.
Yeah. So the Reverend William M. Elders was a respected Baptist preacher in Atlanta who had suffered the loss of not 1, but 2 daughters from the flu.
Mm-hmm.
Technically, that's, until we find out.
And I mean, and to give it context, a lot of people were dying from the flu in the early 1900s. It was a different time. It wasn't
That's
like
true.
as rare as it is now. So, when somebody says, "Hey, they had the flu," it's like, "Oh, that stinks. Sorry about that." They weren't going to immediately be like, "Yeah, but was it arsenic?"
Exactly. And I mean, like, look at the numbers of the flu, like last year, because mostly everybody had on masks. So the flu numbers were like way low, not like they were in the early 1900s.
Yeah, colds too. I mean, we found the cure for the common cold. It's just don't see anybody and wear a mask.
Right. Right. So technically, Roberta and the Reverend were still newlyweds. Under better circumstances, like maybe this could have been a sitcom. That's why I said under better circumstances. I'm not making fun of the victims.
Or just like a dark comedy.
Yeah.
Something you'd see on like HBO late at night.
Death Becomes Her type.
Yeah.
So they had only just gotten married about 2 years, they had only been married about 2 years when he fell ill. William's full-time job was working in construction. And one day he became ill at work after eating his bananas and cheese. Not like a banana and cheese sandwich. It was like bananas and cheese.
Just, here's a banana, here's some cheese.
Right. So he got so ill, he had to leave work. He went home, and of course, his doting wife had to attend to him and care for him. His adoring Roberta. So the family physician was called, and William was given medicine and told, if you're not feeling better, if you don't improve, call again. The doctor was called, but only after it was too late. William was already dying. Roberta, as reported by William's children, reportedly gave William a mix of milk, not a mix of, but she gave him milk of magnesia to help ease his symptoms. Something that she had also done for Fannie Mae and Annie Pearl. Now, if you don't know what milk of magnesia or mom, some people used to call it mom. Do you remember that when people would call it mom?
Yeah. It's for upset stomachs.
It's Tums or whatever. Yeah, it's the same thing.
It's a white chalky-like substance. You're like, why am I drinking chalk?
Yeah, and it does not taste good. It gets the job done. Doesn't taste good.
Because your entire inside is coated with chalk, and it's like, what do we do now?
Right. So William never recovered. It was thought that he passed from not the flu this time, but pneumonia. The family doctor noticed something seemed off, though. So instead of signing the death certificate, he called the county coroner. This happened to be the same coroner that examined both girls. And when he saw William, he was completely shaken because William was like completely emaciated and his skin was ruddy. So he was concerned about the possibility of being poisoned. So he tested William. And of course, we will find out exactly what he was afraid of happened.
And then seems like once they start testing, then they've got to go back and start retest people.
Right. Because it's like, well, if she did this to him and if the symptoms mimic, well, we've got to make sure now.
Mm-hmm.
So after finding arsenic in William's body, he called the authorities. The authorities tested all the remaining family members to see if they have been exposed to arsenic as well, all the ones that are still alive. And some had started to show symptoms. Well, now we've got to exhume the bodies. So Annie Pearl and Fannie Mae were exhumed, and there was trace evidence of arsenic found in their hair. So police arrest Roberta Elder on September 26th of 1952. As with all the female serial killers we've discussed, Roberta had life insurance policies on each and every one of her victims. All of the policies naming her as the beneficiary.
Of course.
Now, remember, this is 1930, so this is some good money. The policies ranged from $50 to $250, which would be about $487 to almost $2,200.
Yeah, it's not crazy, but good chunks of change.
Right. And I mean, and if you're, in a lower income household, that's good money.
Yeah. I mean, we think of the stimulus package. I mean, people were over the moon for $600.
Right. A perfect example.
Yeah. In today's economy.
The largest policies were on Fannie, which was $500 in the 1940s. So that's about $4,900 today. And William, he had a $550 policy, which is about $5,400 today. So the case, while extremely circumstantial, was very strong. In addition to the deaths by arsenic poison, witnesses reported seeing pink powder at the Elder home. Until I looked that up for this case, I had no idea arsenic was pink. I always thought it was white.
Yeah, I guess I'd never thought of its color, but that's interesting. Pink.
So William Fawkes with the Pittsburgh Courier, which was a black newspaper, it was the only newspaper that was reporting on Roberta. William reported on the case, and during the trial, it was stated that witnesses told the coroner and the grand jury that the sacks of pink powder would turn up at the family's Easton Street home when Roberta took trips to her brother's farm near Watkinsville. The excuse was that the powder was to kill plant insects. So I guess like an insecticide.
Yeah. Like rat poisons, like, why do you have a lot of rat poison? Oh yeah, I got rats. Sure.
Right. I got a lot of bugs in the plants. No, you're just trying to kill a lot of people. So William M. Elder Jr., her stepson, testified that Roberta had administered medicine to each of the 3 victims. And he also stated that he had stopped eating at the house after his father's death. When asked why, he responded, "I thought if she poisoned them, she might try to get me too."
Yeah, smart man.
So then you add to the witness testimony and the deaths, the life insurance policy, and you basically have a home run case. Roberta was found guilty and sentenced to life in prison. The prosecutor was kind of upset that he could not bring up the death penalty as an option due to the fact that it was a circumstantial case. So the law prevented that. Can you imagine the prosecutor like, I really wanted to kill her too, but the law said,
yeah.
I don't know why I gave the prosecutor that accent, but
it was very becoming. I was like, man, I'd listen to this person talk all day.
It was like foghorn leghorn. I say.
I say guilty.
I say death penalty, but the law says. I'm sorry. Okay, so Roberta maintained her innocence throughout the entire trial.
Mm-hmm.
The same year as Roberta's prosecution, a white female by the name of Nannie Doss, who we mentioned earlier, and she's episode 20, by the way.
So when you're going back to listen to it, just put that little check mark by that one.
Right. When you're going back to prove that this is really an Angelina Jolie podcast.
Every episode. Check
mark episode 20 and listening to Nannie Doss, a.k.a. the giggling granny who is accused of killing 4 husbands.
That was episode 20? Wow.
Mm-hmm. I know. It doesn't seem like that long ago.
No, I remember that. Oh, wow.
Of course, she's known as Giggling Granny because she always giggled when talking about the deaths of her husband and children and more. So Nannie Doss actually garnered national attention at the time, unlike Roberta. Even though Roberta's list of victims is as, if not more, prolific as Nannie Doss. Nannie consistently appears on lists of notable female serial killers. Roberta does not. Psychologist Scott Bond believes that the myths about serial killers and their victims has led to the assumption that Black serial killers do not exist in significant numbers. Mainstream media seems to perpetrate this myth by giving airtime to the kind of killers that target sympathetic victims, particularly white females.
Mhm.
Bond describes this phenomenon as, quote, missing white girl syndrome. So while Roberta Elder is one of the most prolific female serial killers, you've probably never heard of her before. Until now.
And that's why we're here.
And exactly. So now you know. And the more you know. Wait, can I get in trouble for saying that? No, that's not the NBC logo anymore.
No, yeah, that was it was like a promo thing. NBC's got their own problems. They're not coming after us for the more you know.
But there you go. So 2 female serial killers that were active at the same time. The only difference, one white, one black, one notorious, one you've never heard of.
And both were poisoners.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Both used arsenic as their weapon of choice. Nannie put it in her apple prune pies.
Yeah.
And Roberta apparently liked to put it in bananas and cheese.
Yeah. I've got 2 bananas left from that bunch. I don't know if I'm going to finish them.
I don't think anybody has poisoned your bananas.
I know, but now I'm going to think about poison the entire time I'm eating them. It's probably going to affect the taste.
As long as there's nothing pink sprinkled on them, don't have any Himalayan pink salt laying around.
Well, that's true. I don't have any pink salt.
But there you go. That is the story of Roberta Elder, aka Atlanta's Mrs. Blackbeard.
This is Kevin Armstrong, your host for Movie Battle. Each episode, we take 2 films and put a superfan of each against one another to decide which one is best. The only rule we have is that you come correct. If you're interested in being a guest on Movie Battle, please check us out on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter.
So on the A side today, we will talk about something that I've wished I could kill over the last couple of weeks. And that is the touch tunes or jukebox at my work. I've been very lucky over the last few weeks, as Brooke, you and I have talked about. Things have been picking up at the restaurants and bars here in Minnesota, and the weather's been really nice, and we've got a large patio right now. So I've been spending more and more hours at work, which I'm very thankful for and super excited about. It's great to see people coming in again. How many times each shift I'll talk to somebody who it's their first time out since, for like they haven't been out in a year, or they just got their second vaccine and it's been 2 weeks and they're super excited to be there. Those stories are outstanding and make every shift just a little bit better to see people excited about eating out again and being with people and talking. And we're starting to get people sit down at the bar again, and that vibe is returning. But one thing that I haven't loved is our Touch Tunes jukebox has an absolutely horrible music selection. And it sometimes just doesn't turn on. It is digital, which means that it's got to be connected to the internet. And some Mondays especially, I don't know if on Mondays the Touch Tune company has some sort of update go through, but the machine will always be off, and I will have to go through a almost ritual like seance maneuver to get it to turn back on. You unplug it 3 times, you walk away, you plug it back in.
Tap the top of it.
Yeah, you then you gotta hit pause, then hit unpause, then unplug it while you're hitting pause. And I play with it for like 10-15 minutes, and then I'll walk away and I'll come back. And usually it takes a good 45 minutes of going through the ritualized dance of getting the Touch Tunes to turn back on again. But then when it does turn on, the music selection is frustrating. And I got so frustrated in hearing the same few songs that I started to do some research, because I was like, there has to be someone on the internet who is also raging against the algorithms, because I'm sure it's a challenging thing. Brooke, you know how hard it is to create playlists for a radio station and play songs that people want, but not overplay them, and play new stuff, but not stuff that people don't know yet because they want to hear it. It's a very delicate balance.
Right.
So I can only imagine how tough it is for a jukebox when you're adding in, we want people to listen to the music and enjoy it, but we also want them to be encouraged to play the songs they want to hear. So we can't just play all the hits, because then they won't spend any money. we have to play songs like maybe by the same artist or the same era or same genre to try to get people to play. So it's like there's got to be some sort of magic, secret sauce algorithm out there that I could learn something about. And so I started to do some research. And what I have found is no one is talking about the secret sauce algorithm for TouchTunes. So we don't get to do that. But
what?
I did learn.
You mean there's not like 18 different websites devoted to that alone?
I thought there would be. I have found nothing. TouchTunes has got that stuff locked down. They won't let you know how it's done. I'm trying to figure out the algorithm so I can game it, and no one else has done this because probably no one else cares nearly as much as I do.
No, you know what?
Because
just a real quick shout out to a podcast that I really do like, Reply All. They do all that kind of techie stuff. You should
really
connect with them and see.
Yeah, I didn't. I was only looking for like news articles and blog posts. I didn't get into any podcasts. It's probably on a podcast because podcasts are very informative, and you should definitely subscribe to your favorite one right away.
But even if it's not on there, you could write to them and they would look into it. That's what they do.
Yeah. All right. So it's called Reply All.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, Adam's got homework again. Darn it. So while I was doing all this, I actually got into a bunch of history about jukebox themselves and things that I did not realize, which a couple things as soon as they happened, I was like, oh, obviously that makes sense. But for instance, did you know that the jukebox itself predates radio? No. Jukeboxes were first around in the 1890s. One of the first things that came from Thomas Edison's phonograph was some entrepreneur sticking a coin-operated thing onto it, so people would put a coin in and it would play the record. And the first jukeboxes literally were just a phonograph with that little thing attached that you put the coin into. The record would play, but it didn't have a big speaker. People would have to use one of those listening devices and stick their ear right to it. So it certainly wasn't for a big group of people.
So you weren't juke jamming, basically.
No, it was basically, you were just in a corner kind of doing it by yourself. Listening to the record as it started to gain more and more popularity in the early 1900s and the 1910s. There would be recordings of large-scale orchestras and other classical music that would be added to jukeboxes and played. And then, almost as jukeboxes were growing, you've been around for about 20-30 years, they're just about to take hold in the national consciousness. They get whacked upside the head because of an invention in the mid 1920s, radio, which provided free music. So you didn't have to put any coins into the phonograph anymore because you had radio. This meant that during the 1930s, the phonograph industry and the jukebox industry almost completely disappeared. Then, as everyone was getting into modern music, and even the radio was hesitant to play some of this newfound rock and roll and jazz,
newfangled garbage.
That devil's music. Kids could find it in jukeboxes, and jukeboxes started to pop up in diners and restaurants all over the country, and where kids would come and play music and pump the jukebox full of coins and spend a lot of money because they couldn't listen to it at home, which then would lead to people spending hours and hours at your sort of classic Americana style diners. And one of the big companies that made like the classic, when you think of like Happy Days and you've got Fonzie there, like kicking or elbowing the jukebox so it plays his favorite song, was a company named Rock-Ola. So ROCK-OLA, which was one of the first jukebox companies and is the only original jukebox company that is still in production today. They have been around since 1927. And in the 1940s, they called the golden age of jukeboxes. At that time, as many as 75% of all the records produced in the country, United States of America, went straight into jukeboxes.
Well, okay, question. Is Rock-Ola is it like an offshoot of Victrola?
Not that I read in their official website.
Okay.
No. Yeah, just Rock-Ola. In the beginning, Thomas Edison, the John Gable Manufacturing Company was a previous incarnation of it. But Rockola started in 1927. So yeah, I think they probably just stole the Victrola, like the Ola, like everything is like, you got your iMac, you got your iPod, you got your iPad, you got your iWatch, you've got your iRobot, you got your iVacuum. It's like, I became like maybe Ola was the terminology of the day. Yeah. So in the 1940s, 75% of records went directly into jukeboxes, and Rock-Ola developed the wall box system, so you could have even more records to be able to be played on the jukeboxes. And their classic one was what they called the bubbler jukebox, which has got that classic sort of elongated U shape. That when you think of a jukebox from the olden days, that's what you think of. Evidently, the bubbler was the name of the styles.
Okay.
Which is another thing I didn't know existed. I mean, I've had a little. When I was a kid, we were flea marketing, or we were going to flea markets in Arkansas because we visited my grandparents, and then there wasn't a lot to do in Arkansas. So my dad and I would go flea marketing, and we would search for collectibles. And I found this little cassette tape player that was shaped like a jukebox, and I thought that was the coolest thing.
Neat.
And I still have that to this day, like 30 years later, which is ridiculous. But all this time, I had no idea that it was called a bubbler. But these bubblers often mimicked sort of the design of the time. So in the 1940s and 50s, they were much like the cars of the time, very showy and elaborate with like linting silver finishes, chrome. Sometimes they'd have like tail fins and grills and design features that were, very much automobile, but bringing them into the restaurant. Inspired by, things like, Harley Davidson and that. In the 70s, jukeboxes continued, but they started it downhill because one of many things that disco did was also kill the jukebox. So disco came along and the hot place to go stopped being the restaurants and the diners and the congregation for the kids. Now it was the disco. And so disco came along and also killed the jukebox. Luckily, over the years, then rock music and video came along and killed disco. But as the
And then video killed the radio star.
And then video killed the radio star. All this time, jukeboxes have kind of stayed in the background. The problem is there's not a lot of companies that manufacture them and not a lot of people that fix them. And because they're so mechanical and so intricate, I mean, if you think of all the parts that go into picking a record, spinning it around, bringing it over, playing, having the right buttons correlate to the right records, just having somebody to service those, and even having the records to play, they've slowly gone out of style and out of function, even for those people that want to keep them around. Back in 2018, NPR's, what is this called? All Things Considered actually found a gentleman who has his entire life, since he was 16, gone around and fixed old classic jukeboxes. So his name is Perry Rosen, and since he was 16, he's been going around fixing people's jukeboxes. It used to be for restaurants and diners, and now, at least 3 years ago, it was more private collectors and people that have set up, their man caves or she sheds with the jukebox in their basement or out in the yard. And he would travel all over the country. He was based out of New York, but had been flown out to California to repair jukeboxes. He'd gone all the way down to, flown out to California to repair jukeboxes, because people, as the vinyl revolution is expanding, we mentioned, I don't know, in a previous episode that Adam doesn't always pay attention to his subscriptions. And I have, for the last year, been subscribed to a service that was supposed to send me vinyl records, because I'm trying to get into vinyl records because I want to be a cool dad. That is a huge thing. Vinyl records are growing quite a bit. And even new artists are like common day artists or modern day artists are putting things out on vinyl as well. One of the records that I was supposed to receive that I've still not yet received is Harry Styles' newest album, but on vinyl.
Oh, it's good too.
Yeah, I've heard really good things. So I was like, well, that seems very, like this is the type you just put on the record player while I'm, making my bananas and cheese and go from there. So but this guy travels all over the country because jukeboxes are now become more of a collectible item. they have been replaced in most bars and restaurants, like the one I work in, by digital jukeboxes. Often one company, TouchTunes, is the one that I deal with, but there are several different companies. And the one thing I did find when looking for the TouchTunes secret algorithm and how I can game it to play better songs was a proliferation of opinion pieces about how digital jukeboxes are eroding the musical experience in dive bars and diners all over the country because there's too many choices. So you can go to any. There were articles like, say, this one in the Atlantic by Lauren Michelle Jackson from 2018, who talks about how one of the greatest joys of jukeboxes was that the jukebox and the music selection would reflect the place that they were in, because the owner would want certain music in there, or they would try to have certain music for the clientele, and you would learn a little bit about the environment and the atmosphere of that bar or restaurant by what was available on the jukebox. Now, with the entire catalog of a company like TouchTunes, you can go into any bar or restaurant and hear kind of the same thing. So you're losing that individuality, and you're only getting options of pretty much nationwide appeal. You won't have, say here in the Twin Cities, you could have some local artists that have put out records that their CDs or vinyls may have been in local jukeboxes, but now they're never big enough to get the attention of TouchTunes, so they're not going to be available to play digitally. TouchTunes does work with Spotify, so you can link your account, and then things you listen to on Spotify you can potentially play on TouchTunes, but only if they're in the TouchTunes catalog. So one of my frustrations is that there are a limited number of unlimited options on the TouchTunes library, and we tend to hear the same ones over and over. So there are some existing channels that we can play, but I will probably have to just bite the bullet, as I have many times recently, and pay to hear a new song, which I think really what we've learned in this entire experience is whatever the TouchTunes algorithm is, it's working, because it makes me pay to hear the songs that are different and new. And that's probably exactly what it is designed to do. So jukeboxes are great, but are on for a long time. Vinyl ones are disappearing, but they're coming back in your friends, she sheds and man caves. So take your 45s over there. And it doesn't appear there's any way to fix the TouchTunes algorithm other than bowing to the TouchTunes gods and paying $1 per play.
So what has been your go-to on your TouchTunes?
Honestly, if I can even I can pull it up and send you a screenshot of my most played, because I've got like a playlist when it gets like really busy and I need to okay, I got to focus. So I really can't hear any more Bob Seger right now. And please don't play me any Rod Stewart, because those two guys, I feel like I'm developing a very confrontational relationship with their music, because it always comes on when we're like the busiest, and I'm like, I don't want to hear Rod Stewart right now. And I'm stalling because my app is loading. My most played. I was
don't want to hear
honest,
Maggie or Downtown Train.
No, even it's not even those. It's like deep cuts. It's like why? What is this? No one wants to hear this random. It would be one thing if it was like Rod Stewart's "If You Think I'm Sexy," because that one's at least like silly and funny and like somebody like will engage conversation. Mm-hmm. That's the one thing about most of the music. It's very non-engaging and just doesn't get people excited. It just kind of happens in the background. It's background music. But my top plays on TouchTunes right now are Judah and the Lion, Suit and Jacket, which is a very calming song for me. Mm-hmm. Almond Brown's The Sweetest Thing. Okay. At the end of the night, when I am cleaning up, I love to start out my cleanup playlist with Warren G's Regulate. When I'm trying to get myself going and like it's getting really stressful and I need to have some energy, I play Inya Kamuz's Here Comes the Hot Stepper.
Heine Kamosi.
Yeah, I don't know how to say most of the names. And then DJ Shadow's Rocket Fuel.
Okay.
The Black Keys Tighten Up.
You
When
got like
I
an
am
amped up list there.
Oh yeah, because usually it's like, okay, I've got 30 drinks to pour, or I've got 5 tables to get to, and I need to get some energy going, and like a song, a slow ballad right now is not what we need. The Fun Loving Criminals Scooby Snacks is one of my favorites when the bar is mostly dead. En Vogue's My Lovin', another one that gets me through.
Never gonna get it.
Let's see, yeah. Lizzo's Water Me.
Okay.
Praz and I think Maya is involved in this one, and ODB as well, Ghetto Superstar.
Yes.
Yeah. And then the number one song that when I am in a bad mood, if it comes on, it immediately puts me in a better mood, and it is inexplicable, is War's Lowrider. Yeah. I was once asked years ago if like when you walk into a room, what is the song you want playing? And inexplicably at that moment, I said War's Lowrider. And everyone just looked at me like that is the least Adam song we've ever heard. And so now I love it. It makes me smile every time I hear it. And you can't Lowrider, like when it starts with like the beat, you can't not, like, your shoulders immediately start bouncing, and you get the groove right away. So if this was like the Avengers and you needed to calm down the Hulk, instead of Black Widow playing, going like, sun's getting pretty high, big guy. For me, you just play Lowrider, and then I'm immediately in a better mood.
Oh, okay. I'm here for it though.
Yeah, so I have to play all of those songs because none of those songs will ever play on accident on the jukebox, because I've now paid money to play them. So it's much like a casino. I am now sucked in, and I'll just keep plugging the jukebox.
Oh, me. All right. So you need to, like I said earlier, go to Reply All, look through their episodes, and if you don't see one about a jukebox, write to them, because they are the tech customer service. That's their whole spiel for their podcast. I mean, so far as to, like, the robodials that like will call you and hang up.
Mm-hmm.
They like tracked some of that down.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
wow.
It's wild. So yeah.
I will definitely do that, because I want to figure out how to get, like, I always thought, like, if I keep, like, it was very, very naive, but in my naivete, I was like, well, if I play this song all the time, then every once in a while they'll throw me a bone and play it for free. No, Adam, that's not how that works. That's not how it works.
All right. So is that the A side?
That is the A side. And as I get ready to go and re-engage my day with the jukebox here in a couple hours, so I feel like I've already been there.
Lowrider is gonna see. You should like set it so as soon as you walk in, it's playing, because you can do that.
Yeah, that is maybe the one good thing, like double-edged sword, good thing, bad thing. Like, I can, like, if I know I can, like, right now I can go to my work and play a song even if I'm not there using the app, which is kind of cool. But that can also be used by nefarious ne'er-do-wells to, like, play Barbie Girl 7 times at a restaurant when they're not there, and to annoy the staff or the guests. So not that anyone's ever done that, but it's happened.
All right. So this is episode number 45. Again, if you want that free t-shirt, you're going to have to go back and listen to the other 44 episodes to find how it is, in fact, an Angelina Jolie podcast.
Mm-hmm. Some of them are really hidden.
Like, you're going to have to listen very carefully. While you're doing that, you can head on over to our website. We've got all of our Angelina Jolie sources. And we also have merch. So when you're trying to figure out which t-shirt you want, you can head on over to the website and look at all the different t-shirt options. That's A-side, B-side podcast.square.site. And also we have the social medias. We've got an Instagram, we've got a YouTube, we've got a Facebook, and a Twitter. Am I leaving anything off?
Did you mention the YouTube?
I did.
Okay. Well, evidently the only thing we're missing is Adam's listening.
Because you are trying to plan out playing Lowrider when you walk into work.
I am. I got to figure out where on my walk to work I need to hit play so I can walk in at the chorus. So, these are the important things that Adam does with his time.
Oh, man. Also, again, all our sources are on our website. It's asidebsidepodcast.square.site. You can also support the podcast by buying us a coffee. It's buymeacoffee.com/asidebsidepod. Of course, all that money either goes to coffee, for real, actual coffee, or to promotion of the show. So there you go. All right. Another episode down. Yay, Adam.
Yay, Brooke. Hello.
Hello. Goodbye.
Bye.
Thanks, Adam.
Thanks, Brooke.
As always, thank you for listening to A-Side B-Side Podcast. If you enjoy the show, please, if you don't mind, head on over to Apple and leave us a rating or a review. And if you'd like to continue to support the podcast, you can do so by heading on over to Patreon, or you can buy us a coffee, as well as buying merch on our website, asidebsidepodcast.square.site. From Adam and I at A-Side B-Side Podcast, please remember to wear your mask, social distance if you're around people that don't live in your household, and just be safe and happy. Thanks again from us here at A-Side B-Side Podcast.